Mike McGarry, veteran reporter from the Press of Atlantic City. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, Sully, how are you this morning?
Pretty good, man. Got to ask you right off the bat, how much would you love to be a fly on the wall in the Atlantic City locker room at halftime of the Pleasantville game?
Well, it would be interesting. It would be interesting, yeah, and colorful at that. Gene Allen, the Atlantic City coach, does not mince words at all. So.
That might be an understatement.
Right, exactly.
Talk about this Battle by the Bay. You've been covering this for years, and obviously, the premier boys and girls basketball tournament in South Jersey, as far as basketball goes. What strikes you most about this tournament? I was talking to Coach Gene Allen, and it kind of strikes me as almost like a basketball carnival, something you might see in New York City in the summertime.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it always brings together some of the top teams in South Jersey. Some of the top, it gets a couple of top teams from Pennsylvania. Always gets, a good team from another part of New Jersey. And today, this day, I think is one of the more interesting days in the events since the event began in 1995. I think they've got a really, great day of games out there at Atlantic City High School today.
Yeah, one of the matchups that really stands out: Wildwood Catholic versus Middle Township. I mean, these are neighboring schools, and both teams can really put up points, and that should be a great game at 2:00. And also before that, Southern Regional versus Eastern Regional at 12:30. You're definitely going to see some points scored today.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. In Southern Regional versus Eastern, those are two South Jersey Group 4 teams. So Atlantic City doesn't play today, but if you're an Atlantic City fan, go check out Southern Regional and Eastern, because those are teams the Vikings could be facing in the South Jersey Group 4 playoffs. You've got Peyton Weinert, a 6'7" forward from Southern Regional. He's headed to Division II Pace University, but he's averaging 30.4 points a game, 11.3 rebounds. Eastern's number 7 in our Press Elite 11. So that's an interesting game right there. And then you hit it on the head at 2:00. Middle Township and Wildwood Catholic. That's a neighborhood rivalry. Several of the Wildwood Catholic players live in sending districts that send their kids to Middle Township. These kids know each other growing up. They played on the same teams. They played against each other. That's just going to be a good old-fashioned neighborhood rivalry game at 2:00 between two quality teams at the Battle by the Bay.
And then, you're talking about the nightcap, 6:30, CBA versus St Augustine. What a matchup between non-publics. I mean, these are teams that typically play for championships. And this year, especially, you have Saeed Nelson in his senior year. What an amazing match. I mean, if you're a basketball fan, you definitely want to get out to that game.
Oh, absolutely. You said two teams played for championships. Well, last year, these two teams played in the South Jersey non-public. It was a classic. CBA won 83-77. You're going to see two of the best players. These are two historic programs. You're going to see two of the best players in these programs' history. You hit on Saeed Nelson, the point guard for St. Augustine, averaging about 24 a game. He's headed to American University. On the other side, you've got Pat Andre, the leading scorer in CBA history with over 1,500 career points. That's a statement when you consider some of the players that CBA has produced. And St. Augustine fans should be familiar with Pat Andre. He's the guy who hit 7 of 7 from beyond the arc in last year's game, 2 or 3 of them falling out of bounds,
wow.
Backwards. So that's just a classic game between, a 16-0 St. Augustine team and a 14-2 CBA team.
Talking with Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Mike, what about the Sunday game, Pleasantville versus Atlantic City? This has been kind of lopsided the last couple of years, but I got a feeling it's going to be a pretty tight game this year as, Pleasantville has 6 or 7 seniors, a couple in the starting lineup, and these guys really want to beat Atlantic City at least one time before they leave high school.
Exactly. I think Atlantic City has won 10 out of the last 11 games. I think they hold a 14-6 edge in Battle by the Bay games. But, there's a lot of interest around this year's game for exactly the reason you said. Pleasantville is 10-7 this season. They've had a kind of a basketball resurgence, and they've got some seniors, Kenny Allen, Jovan Luna, Markel Bridges. These are quality kids. These are talented kids, and they want to make their mark at the Battle by the Bay. And, you hit it. You called the Battle by the Bay a little bit of a basketball carnival. Well, the centering act is Pleasantville versus Atlantic City. This game, for a lot of fans, it's the only game they go to all season. You got a great halftime show between the Pleasantville and Atlantic City cheerleaders. And the game is really just I talked with Gene Allen a little bit about the game last night. The game sort of exists in its own world. It's almost like nothing that happens before or after matters, and it really is just a celebration of the Atlantic City and Pleasantville communities. It's just a great event, and one of the more unique high school events in the state.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that Mainland Ocean City football rivalry. You could go 1-9, if you're Ocean City or Mainland, but if you beat the other team, it's still a good season. I mean, that's the kind of rivalry it is between Pleasantville and Atlantic City.
Yeah, I think, especially for Pleasantville. I mean, if Pleasantville were to beat Atlantic City, I mean, I think they declare a season a success right there. I mean, if they were to beat Atlantic City, I think that would be, short of winning a state title, that would make their season. So, you're exactly right. It is one of those games where, and all rivalry games are kind of like that. If you win the rivalry game, it's a successful season for you.
Mike, fill us in a little bit on the Cape Atlantic League tournament. I know that deadline's coming up soon. Who's really on the bubble? Who needs a couple of wins to kind of solidify their place in that tournament?
Well, I think you saw it a little bit this week and last night at the Battle by the Bay. I thought Ocean City had kind of, played well. Then they kind of hit some shaky ground. They dropped 3 games in a row, but they kind of solidified their spot this week with a big win over Middle Township in overtime on Monday, and then a big win last night over Cedar Creek. So, they kind of stepped forward and did a good job right there. I think, Pleasantville at 10-7, could use an impressive performance against Atlantic City to sort of solidify their spot. And St. Joe is right there. They beat Pleasantville last week to kind of step up and stake a claim to one of those spots. So those 3 teams kind of, hanging on to maybe the last 3 spots. And I think the top 5, you've got St. Augustine, you've got Atlantic City, you've got Wildwood Catholic, you've got Middle Township, and you've got Holy Spirit in those top 5 spots. Then followed by, Ocean City, St. Joe, and Pleasantville. And then Absecammy, Cedar Creek, kind of hanging around right there. But I think the 8 teams that I mentioned before, are kind of the front runners for those 8 tournament spots right now.
And when are we talking about getting this tournament finalized? When does that all come about?
To the last, last day of the season. I think the tournament starts on the Monday. A little shaky with the dates. I think the tournament starts February 22nd, so the field will be picked the Friday before, whatever day that is. Maybe the 19th will be the committee will meet, and they will select a tournament, and they'll have the seedings, and you'll have the first round games on that Monday, and then boys and girls semifinals will be Wednesday, Thursday, and then you'll play the finals Saturday at Stockton. So, that's the one thing about February. I know today is February 6th or whatever. February goes quick, so you're really talking about 2 weeks before that tournament is finalized and we're in postseason play.
Yeah, you're going to be logging some overtime in February. I mean, basketball is just it gets crazy this time of year as you're playing 3 and sometimes 4 games in a week, and I guess we'll see who's who here in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I love basketball. I mean, a lot of sports fans complain, obviously you've got the Super Bowl this week, and a lot of sports fans say after the Super Bowl, it's kind of a dead period for professional sports until, maybe you've got spring training in March and the college basketball tournament March Madness after football kind of ends this weekend. But, I love it. If you're a sports fan and you're not, at Atlantic City today or at Cherry Hill East for their big event next weekend, or at St. Augustine for their big Shoot Down Cancer event, on the weekend of the 20th, I mean, you're just missing out. I mean, a lot of sports fans complain that February is a dead month. To me, it's one of the best months of the year, and it is because of, it's when high school basketball is really at its best.
Talking with Mike McGarry of the Press for Atlantic City. Mike, any particular teams or players really stand out as a surprise to you this season?
I think one of the surprises is at the Battle by the Bay today. I mean, the Middle Township boys basketball team. They lost a key player before the start of the season in Corey Greer, transferred to Camden. And people kind of wondered, well, what was that going to do to Middle Township? How are they going to be? Well, they've been just fine. Tom Farraco down there, more than 700 wins, 3 state championships, doing one of his finest coaching jobs. They're 13-3. Tim Toney, the point guard, had a great game in a win over Cedar Creek on Thursday night. I think he had like 27, 29 points. He's had a spectacular season. And then they've just done it with role players, guys like Will Neal, who hit 5 3-pointers against Ocean City, and Joe Fowler, and the other guard, Fitzpatrick. And as a result, Middle Township is 13-3. They'll have one of the top seeds in South Jersey Group 2. You should be one of the top 4 seeds in the Cape Atlantic League tournament, and they're going to play a great game today against Wildwood Catholic. So I don't think at the start of the season, when you consider, when you look at the Middle Township roster, I don't think anybody predicted them to be 13-3, but that's exactly where they are right now. And that's really a testament to that program's tradition of success and the coaching down there.
Well, you don't get the 700 wins by accident.
Exactly. You don't stumble your way to milestones like that.
No.
You know?
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you out there this weekend at the Battle by the Bay.
Always a pleasure. Thanks. Anytime. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Mike. That was Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City, all over the high school basketball scene.